Hey everyone, welcome to Super C. I hope you all had a great summer. I know I did. I'm sorry I didn't post any videos for a while, but I was just very super busy doing nothing. We all need that sometimes, right? Anyway, I'm back with some exciting news. Well, news, it's been out for a while. A few weeks ago, Izotope released Ozone 11. And if that wasn't enough, on the same day, they also released Nectar 4. Now, as an Izotope user, I've been using Izotope stuff for quite a while now. This obviously was big news to me. Really love their products. It's really high-end stuff that can make the mixing and mastering process that much easier. Now, obviously, I was very tempted to upgrade, but then I started thinking, it feels like I just upgraded to Ozone 10, which in fact was almost exactly a year ago. Last year I also upgraded to Neutron 4, and then this year Ozone 11 and Nectar 4. I thought, am I gonna have to do this every year? I mean, great stuff and all, but it is quite a bit of money. So I thought, I already have a lot of stuff. I mean, isn't there a way for me to use the stuff that I already have? Maybe in combination with some maybe more budget stuff as an alternative to Ozone. And the answer, of course, is yes. So I dove into it a little bit and I came up with a list of some alternative software products. So let's get into it. Okay, now before we get started, one quick disclaimer. I'm gonna mention some software and I'm gonna mention some prices. Now keep in mind that these prices are the prices shown on the website of the developers at the moment of recording this video. So please check for yourself if these prices are still accurate. Alright, now let's start with the all-in-one mastering plugins. I know that this is a category that will probably make most seasoned professional mastering engineers frown a little bit, because these kinds of plugins are typically a bit limited. They don't offer a lot of control and options. They also don't offer any interchangeable modules, so you're kind of stuck with what you have. So there are definitely some disadvantages to these kinds of plugins, but I do believe that they can still be pretty useful to some people. So for example, if you're a musician and your main focus is on the creative side of things and you don't want to be bothered with all the technical mastering stuff, you just want something that is easy to use and that can get you some pretty good results quickly, well, this might be something for you. Now the first one on the list is called Master Suite by Initial Audio. Now this is definitely one of the cheapest. Normally it would go for $89, or at least that's what they say on the website. But at the moment there is an offer and you can get it for $10. So that's crazy. Now this is a pretty limited plugin, but as I mentioned, that's pretty typical for these kinds of plugins. I think that the least it should be able to do is get the volume to a decent level. I think it can do that. Also, I think it should be able to limit properly. Okay, moving on to the next one, that is Grand Finale 2nd edition by Klevgrand. This is a pretty similar idea, even though the interface doesn't look the same at all. It's also still pretty affordable. You can get it for around $69.99. Now moving on to arguably a bit more sophisticated plugin. This is Mastermind by UnitedPlugins. As I mentioned, it has a little bit more sophisticated features. It's also a little bit more expensive. You can get it for around 129 euros. Now going up in price a little bit further, we find Master Plan by Music Hack, and this one will cost you around $175. Now the last one I'll mention is definitely one of the most talked about, and if you're looking for an all-in-one mastering plugin solution, then probably this is one of the best, if not the best in the category. It's Master Desk Pro by Brainworks, and it will set you back around $349. Now, as I mentioned, these plugins definitely have their limitations, and if you want a little bit more flexibility and a little bit more sophistication, then they might not be your best bet. So let's move on. Now, as I consider Ozone to be a plugin suite, even though you could say that it is one plugin with different modules, but that's kind of like semantics almost. Let's take a look at some more direct competition, so other plugin suites or other plugin bundles. And let's start with the Studio Bundle by Sonible. Now, this is not only aimed at mastering, it's also aimed at mixing. What it does have in common with Ozone and Izotope products in general is that it's AI driven. I'd argue that the artificial intelligence in the Sonible plugins are even more prominent than in the Izotope plugins. So very sophisticated AI, but you still get a lot of control, and I'd say it's a great alternative, and you can get it for around 450 euros. Now the next one on the list is the Mastering Bundle by Fabfilter. You can get this one for 439 euros. This is also high-end stuff. They're making some awesome mixing and mastering tools, very popular. This bundle contains only 4 plugins, so you could argue that Ozone has some more features, some more little tools. One huge advantage I'd say that this bundle has, and also the Sonible bundle has, over Ozone is that you don't have to buy them as a bundle. You can also pick and choose some of the plugins in those bundles, and that way you can assemble your own custom mastering chain. And of course with Ozone you cannot do that because you can only buy it as one product. Now, next one on the list is the Elevate Mastering Bundle by Newfangled Audio, which by the way is distributed by Eventide. Now this bundle also contains 4 plugins, very good sound quality, and you can get it for around $200, not bad at all. Now let's move on to the next one, which is IKEA Multimedia. They have a plugin bundle called T-Rex 5 Max, and this is a very interesting one budget-wise. You know, it's been around for quite a while. It contains 53 different processors, as they call them. It is made for mixing and for mastering. It's pretty good quality stuff, and it's usually very affordable. At the moment of recording this video, you can get it for around 100 to 120 euros, and that is crazy value for money. I don't know why. I don't know if a new version is coming soon, but that's definitely a great deal. Now, speaking of great deals, there is a plugin bundle out there that you can get for free for absolutely zero money. Now, some of you will already have guessed it probably. It is of course the MFreeFXBundle by Melda Production. Now this bundle contains 37 effects plugins, some of which are simply very, very good with a lot of features. So for example, it has an EQ, feature-packed EQ, it has a compressor, a spectrum analyzer. If you're really on a budget, this bundle might not have absolutely everything you need to create your mastering chain, but it will definitely get you a long way. Okay, now let's take a look at some individual plugins you could consider for mastering, and let's start with EQs. Now, the first one I just have to mention, it is Weiss EQ1 by Softube. Now this is an emulation, it's emulating a hardware EQ. It is super clean, it is super precise, it sounds really amazing, pretty much identical to the hardware version. But keep in mind, it is pretty expensive. You will have to pay around 550 euros, but it is very, very good. Now, kind of the same is true for the next one on the list, and that is the SPL PQ by Brainworks. It's also an emulation. They also did a very good job at Plugin Alliance. It also sounds amazing, and you can get it for around $349. Now the next one on the list is a little bit different. It is Gullfuzz by Sound Theory, and Gullfuzz is basically an automatic spectral shaper, as it is called nowadays. You can also call it a dynamic EQ with a lot of precision. It basically continually automatically adjusts the EQ curve according to the audio that is playing. The interface doesn't have a classical EQ structure with different frequency bands that we can manipulate, but instead, it lets you set a few parameters. So one parameter is called recover. Now recover lets you set the degree to which Gullfuzz should try to unmask some aspects in the mix that it thinks need unmasking. With tame, you can tame some of the dominant frequencies. With brighten, obviously you can brighten up the mix or you can darken it. And with boost, you can boost some of the lower frequencies. And basically Gullfuzz does the rest for you. So it's a pretty unique tool. The sound quality is top notch, and you can get it for around 185 euros. Now, I have to say that these 3 EQs that I've mentioned so far may not be very realistic alternatives to Ozone, or at least not if budget is the issue, but if you can afford them, they're very, very good. Okay, let's move on to a little bit more budget-friendly option. So next on the list we have Slick EQ Mastering Edition by TDR, Tokyo Dawn Records. Now, full disclosure, I am a little bit of a fan of Tokyo Dawn Records plugins. This plugin, by the way, is not to be confused with Slick EQ. Slick EQ is a free all-purpose EQ, which already is pretty good. Then we have Slick EQ Gentleman's Edition, which is basically the same EQ but with some added features. And then there is the Mastering Edition, and they've just tailored the same EQ to mastering, so they've added some features that are very relevant for mastering. So all in all, you know, it's a very good, great sounding EQ, and you can get it for around 50 euros. By the way, you can also get a little bundle of the Gentleman's Edition and the Mastering Edition for 60 euros. Something to think about. Now let me also mention 2 free options. So first of all, by Fox & Go, we have Marvell GEQ. Now, this is one of those plugins that I think shouldn't be free at all. You know, it's a linear phase graphic equalizer, 16 bands. One of the standout features, I think, is the routing options. One of those options is mid-side processing. Yeah, it's just a great EQ that happens to be free. Now let me throw in a bonus free EQ. So this one is called Coral Baxter by Acoustica Audio. It's a 2-band so-called shelving EQ. So it only has low cut, low shelf, high cut and high shelf, and it sounds amazing. Now when you're mastering, typically you would also need a compressor. So let's talk compressors. And the first one I'll mention is one that is inspired by a hardware compressor. This is the AMEC Mastering Compressor by Brainworks. Now, one of the standout features to me is the multiple detectors that will trigger either slow, fast, or peak limiter behavior. Very transparent, really awesome compressor that will cost you around $399. Now, next one on the list is also a great compressor for mastering. It is the Old Timer MB by PSP. Now, as the name suggests, it is a vintage style compressor. It's a multi-band compressor, very musical, warm sounding compressor that you can get for $199. Great option. Now let's take a look at some more budget-friendly options. Now I just told you that I'm a little bit a fan of Tokyo Dawn Records plugins. Now one of the plugins I like is Kotelnikov. Kotelnikov obviously is a compressor. It's great for mastering. It really sounds great, very transparent. And the great thing about it is that it is absolutely free. So great option, obviously. But you can also opt for the Gentleman's Edition of Kotelnikov. That has some added features and it will cost you about 50 euros. And obviously I also think that that is a wonderful option. Now the last compressor I'll mention is by Analog Obsession. This one is called Colin MB. It is a 3-band multi-band compressor. It's pretty good and you can get it for free. So go check it out. Okay, now mastering without a limiter wouldn't be mastering, right? So let's take a look at some limiters. First one by DMG Audio called Limitless. This is a feature-packed limiter. One of the standout features to me is the multi-band processing capabilities. It can also separate transients from overall dynamics. The sound quality is amazing, very good limiter, and you can get it for about 210 euros. Now next on the list, again by Softube, this one is Weiss MM1. It doesn't only limit, but it can also bring up the quiet parts. It has 5 different mastering styles, simple controls, it's very transparent, very subtle. Some might even say a little bit too subtle, but anyway, it's an amazing limiter and you can get it for a little under 200 euros. Now the next one is a little bit of a classic. So again by Fox & Go we have Elephant. This one has multiple modes, multiple algorithms. It's very flexible, very transparent, and you can get it for around $100 to $120. Okay, now again, let's go down in price a little bit and step into the more budget-friendly territory. Now, the next one is one of those plugins that I think is almost too good to be true, especially at the price point of 50 euros. It's again TDR, Tokyo Dawn Records, and Limiter 6 Gentleman's Edition. Now, by the way, I'm not at all sponsored or paid in any way by Tokyo Dawn Records. I just genuinely really like some of their products. Now, this is a really great sounding limiter. It's actually more than just a limiter. It has 6 different modules. Hence the name Limiter 6. So it has a dynamics compressor, it has a clipper, a high frequency limiter, a peak limiter, an output protection limiter, and it also has a loudness meter section. This is truly an amazing limiter. Now lastly, let me also mention a free option. So here we have Loud Max by Thomas Mund. It's a free true peak limiter, sounds pretty clean, and it's a good option to put at the end of your mastering chain. Okay, now let's move on to the last category I'll mention today, and that is the metering section, because when you're mastering, it's usually also a very good idea to also visually see what you're doing. So let's talk some metering plugins. Now, the first one on the list might be a little bit inappropriate because we're kind of talking about alternatives to Izotope plugins, but you know, Izotope just happens to have a very good metering plugin called Insight 2. You can get it for 219 euros, and you know, I just had to mention it. Now, another very good metering plugin is called Master Check by Nugent Audio. It has basically everything you need, and you can get it for around 169 euros. Okay, now let's drop a little bit in price and let's talk about levels by Mastering the Mix. Now, this plugin is a very, very useful metering plugin. It is very simple looking. It's also very easy to use. It's pretty capable, and you can get it for about 58 euros. Now, lastly, I will also mention 2 free options. Now, both of these plugins also have paid versions, but the free version of both of these plugins already is very, very good. Now, most of you will probably already know which one I'm talking about. The first one is called the Loudness Meter 2 by Uline. Now, this is a really great loudness meter. Again, the free version is already very capable, but if you want to upgrade, you can upgrade for 58 euros. Now, the same is true for the next plugin, which of course is Span by Fox & Go. The Pro version is called Span Plus, which you can get for a little under $50. So that concludes my list of plugins. I have one more suggestion for you, and that is this. So nowadays, most of us are creating music using a DAW, a digital audio workstation. Most DAWs come with a collection of stock plugins. Stock plugins are becoming better and better all the time. So my suggestion is, before you start spending a lot of money or downloading a lot of stuff, first take a good look at all the stock plugins that your DAW came with. Who knows, you might be very surprised at some of the things you might find. By the way, should you have any suggestions for alternative plugins or tools we could use for mastering, please let us know, because we're very, very interested. Okay? But anyway, that's it from me for now. I hope this was useful in some way. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. Thanks for watching, and I will talk to you in the next video.